She thought I was still in the kitchen. She leaned toward her mother, lowered her voice just enough to make it feel private, and turned me into a punchline. He's a joke in bed. I fake it every time. They laughed, and in that laugh, something inside me didn't break. It went quiet, and that silence? It changed everything. That if you've ever felt disrespected in your own marriage, if you've ever smiled through a joke that cut a little too deep, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this isn't a story about yelling. It's a story about what happens when the quiet one finally stops playing along. That it was supposed to be harmless. Just another Sunday at my in-laws' house. You know, the kind of evening. Polite smiles, forced laughter, wine glasses that only come out when someone's trying to impress someone else. The house was spotless in that artificial way. Beige walls, scented candles burning too strong. The kind of place that looks like it belongs in a catalog but never quite feels lived in. My wife, Lauren, was already on her second glass of wine. Her mother, Diane, sat beside her like she owned the air in the room. And her father? He was in his recliner, watching TV with the volume slightly too loud. A man who had mastered the art of pretending not to notice tension. I'd been there dozens of times before. I knew the rhythm. Diane would make small, cutting remarks disguised as humor. Lauren would laugh just a little too hard, and I would smile, nod, and swallow it. Because that's what I did. I kept things smooth. I kept things calm. I kept things from escalating. That night, I was carrying a glass of water back from the kitchen when I heard my name. Not loudly, just enough. And when you hear your name in a whisper, your body reacts before your mind does. I slowed. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. But then she said it. He's a joke in bed. Lauren's voice wasn't hesitant. It wasn't embarrassed. It was casual, practiced. I fake it every time. There was no gas from Diane. No soak. Just laughter. Sharp. Confident. Familiar. Oh, honey, Diane said. That's just how men like him are. At least he's useful in other ways. More laughter. And in that moment, something inside me didn't explode. It solidified. The house noise dulled. The TV. The clinking of glasses. The hum of the refrigerator. It all faded. I stood there holding that glass of water like it was the only thing tethering me to the ground. I didn't step forward. I didn't confront them. I didn't make a scene. Because what hit me wasn't anger. It was clarity. This wasn't a slip. This wasn't wine talking. This was routine. This was something they had said before. Something they were comfortable saying. Something they believed. I backed away quietly and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection. My face looked calm. Too calm. No red eyes. No trembling hands. Just a tight jaw. And eyes that looked like they'd finally woken up. Memories replayed. Lauren rolling her eyes when I talked about my hobbies. Lauren correcting me mid-sentence in front of friends. Lauren turning away at night without explanation. The harmless jokes. The little sighs. The way she'd sometimes introduce me with a tone that felt diminishing. I had told myself it was stress. Marriage is compromise, I'd said. Marriage is patience. Marriage is endurance. But standing there in that bathroom, I realized something else. Marriage is supposed to include respect. And respect doesn't whisper humiliation behind your back. Lauren was quiet on the drive home, scrolling, smiling at something on her phone. No check-in. No, you okay? She assumed I hadn't heard. That assumption said everything. When we got home, she changed into an oversized t-shirt and climbed into bed like nothing had happened. He sat beside her. Did you have a good time? I asked. Yeah, she said without looking up. Then I asked something I'd never asked before. Do you respect me? She laughed. Short. Confused. What kind of question is that? Of course I do. But there was no weight in it. No pause. No curiosity. Just dismissal. She went back to her phone. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was devastated, but because for the first time in years, my mind felt quiet. The fog was gone. The constant internal negotiation. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe it's not that bad. Disappeared. What was left was simple. I saw the pattern, and I saw my role in it. I had allowed this. Not the comment, but the environment where that comment felt safe. The next morning, I didn't kiss her forehead. That had been automatic. Routine. She didn't notice. I left without much conversation. And over the next few days, I changed nothing outwardly, but everything internally. I stopped texting during the day, stopped checking in, stopped explaining. When I came home later than usual and she asked where I'd been, I said out. No ton, no attitude, just finality. She noticed. Control depends on predictability. And I had become unpredictable. One night she said, "You've been really quiet." I guess, I replied. "You're acting strange." I shrugged. Silence. She wasn't used to that. She was used to me filling the air. Reassuring. Appeasing. But silence without resentment? That unsettled her. She made my favorite dinner. Set the table carefully. Smiled brighter than usual. "It's good," I said after a bite. Nothing more. Her eyes searched my face for something. Validation. Gratitude. Relief. I gave her politeness, but not access. Inside, I was observing, seeing the relationship like an outsider would. How often she redirected conversations to herself. How rarely she asked questions that required listening. How quickly irritation surfaced when I didn't respond as expected. The house felt different. Not louder, not colder, just off balance. Like a chessboard after someone removes a key piece. It was a Thursday night. The lamp in the corner cast long shadows across the living room. Lauren was on the couch, scrolling, waiting. I sat across from her, not beside her. "I heard you," I said. She looked up. "Heard what?" "At your mother's house." Her thumb froze mid-scroll. "I don't know what you think you heard," she said quickly. "But you're mistaken." "I'm not," I said calmly. "You call me a joke in bed. You said you fake it every time." Your mother laughed. Silence. Heavy. Her face flushed. "Oh my God, that was just talk. Girl talk. You're blowing this way out of proportion." "Am I?" "You're being dramatic." "No," I said quietly. I stopped ignoring it. She stood up. "So what? You've been punishing me? Acting cold." I stopped playing. That stopped her. "What do you want?" she asked. "I wanted you to notice," I said. To ask. To take responsibility without being cornered. She didn't. "You don't walk away from a marriage over one stupid comment," she snapped. "You walk away from years of dismissal," I replied. Her breathing changed. Faster. "You're not serious." "I am." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the coffee table. A lease agreement. Signed. Dated. Her eyes widened. "You planned this." "I prepared. You didn't even try to talk to me. I gave you years." The room felt smaller. "You don't love me anymore," she whispered. "Not the way a husband should love someone who doesn't respect him." That hit harder than shouting ever could. I walked to the bedroom. My bag was already packed. When I came back out, she looked smaller, like someone who had miscalculated. "I hope you find what you actually want," I said. And I meant IT. IT wasn't impressive. Bordeaux. Minimal furniture. But when I closed the door behind me, the air felt different. No tensión. No performance. I sat on the couch with a beer and listened. To nothing. No criticism. No satellites. No waiting for the next correction. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I found something I hadn't felt in years. "Peace," she called 2 days later. Crying. Angry. Then apologetic. Then blaming. Then nostalgic. The stages came in waves. "You're overreacting." "I didn't mean it." "You know my mom exaggerates." "You're ruining everything." "You're throwing us away." But none of it addressed the core. Respect. It wasn't about sex. It wasn't about one comment. It was about being reduced to a joke in the one place I was supposed to feel safe. And her biggest shock wasn't that I'd heard. It was that I'd acted. For years, I had been predictable, accommodating, forgiving. She thought I was weak. What she didn't understand was that restraint isn't weakness. It's choice. And the day I chose differently, the entire dynamic collapsed. Weeks later, we met to finalize paperwork. She looked different, less certain. She said, "I didn't think you'd ever leave." I looked at her. That was the problem. For the first time, she didn't have a response. No clever comeback. No deflection. Just silence. And in that silence, something shifted. Not in her. In me. I didn't need her regret. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need validation. I had already reclaimed something more important. Myself. Marriage isn't about perfection. It's about partnership. It's about knowing that even in frustration, You protect each other's dignity. You don't turn your spouse into entertainment. You don't weaponize intimacy for approval. And if you ever feel yourself shrinking in your own home, pay attention. Silence can be louder than disrespect. And sometimes the strongest thing a quiet person can do is stop accepting less than they deserve. That if this story hit close to home, if you've ever felt underestimated or dismissed in a relationship, hit that like button. Drop a comment. Was I right to walk away? Or should I have fought harder? And subscribe for more real, emotionally charged husband-wife debates where the quiet ones don't stay quiet forever. I'll see you in the next story.